The production possibility frontier or production possibility curve depicted here, it's the dotted line, curve line, with the y-axis being consumer goods and the x-axis being capital goods. And what the PPF or PPC refers to is any point along this curve or this frontier it would denote efficiency. Again, there are a couple of different points that are noted, A and B, along the frontier curve itself. And the thing that stands out is that at either point, at any point, the economy is operating efficiently. So what that means is that, in essence, if you're looking at this, if we're producing at point B, which is in the lower part, it's skewed more toward capital goods. The quantity of capital goods that are being produced shows along the x-axis or the horizontal. So there are more capital goods being produced than there are consumer goods, of course. And it becomes increasingly more expensive, meaning while there are more capital goods, the further down we go, more capital goods are being produced. It's becoming much more expensive in terms of foregoing, or we're talking about opportunity costs when we say foregoing consumer goods. So while any of these points along here denote efficiency, it becomes more expensive in terms of like the higher opportunity cost, the further away from, say, the center of the curve would, what that would represent. Anyway, the idea, back to the production possibility frontier curve, is that two things we'll just briefly point out. One is that this represents a snapshot or a point in time in which all of the productive resources that the economy has are being used at their most efficient. Remember, efficient means that the firms, back to the circular flow, the firms or the economy we're referring to in general, in toto, are producing the maximum number of goods and or services at the lowest possible price. So they're maximizing the output, if you will, okay? And so what that means is that you cannot produce beyond, outside, or further away from the origin beyond this production possibility frontier. So if you were to produce beyond, if you were to point to something beyond the frontier, that would be impossible to produce at that given point in time. You can shift the curve out, through the use of increased technology or making your productive resources more productive, if you will. But at the point in time, you cannot produce beyond. Having said that, you can produce within your production possibility frontier. Because what this constitutes, again, this entire segment between the point of origin and the frontier itself, that is comprised basically of productive resource. Productive resources being labor, physical capital, entrepreneurship, and land. And what that means is that all of those productive resources, if you're on the production possibility frontier, are humming. So you have very, very high employment, if you will. So when I say employment, I'm referring to all the productive resources, not just labor. So all the productive resources are being used efficiently, and they're being employed at a very high rate. In fact, at the highest rate you possibly could. So if you're operating within that production possibility frontier, this is where you have relatively high unemployment. High unemployment for labor. That's what we would tend to look at. Or we're not using